In the history of popular music, there are artists whose names became larger than life. People like Michael Jackson, Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, and Diana Ross became global icons whose voices defined generations. But hidden beneath those legendary recordings was another artist, a musician whose work was heard by millions of people every single day, even though most listeners never knew his name. That musician was Jamerson. If you have ever listened to Motown music, then you have heard Jamerson. His bass lines powered classics like My Girl, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, You Can't Hurry Love, What's Going On, I Was Made to Love Her, Reach Out, I'll Be There, and many more. For decades, Jamerson remained largely invisible to the public because Motown Records rarely credited its studio musicians. Yet among musicians themselves, especially bass players, his reputation became almost mythical. Many now consider him the greatest electric bassist in history. Not because he played the fastest, not because he played the loudest, but because he completely changed what the bass guitar could do. This is the story of the man who created the groove beneath the groove. Before we continue, subscribe now, like this video, comment, and share. Jamerson was born on January 29, 1936, in Edisto Island, South Carolina. Growing up in the American South during segregation was not easy. Life was difficult, opportunities were limited, and music often became both an escape and a form of expression. As a child, Jamerson showed natural musical ability almost immediately. He first learned piano, but eventually became fascinated with the upright bass. Unlike many future rock musicians of the era, Jamerson's early influences were deeply connected to jazz and blues. Artists like Ray Brown, Paul Chambers, Charles Mingus helped shape his musical imagination. In the early 1950s, Jamerson moved with his mother to Detroit, Michigan, a city rapidly becoming one of America's great musical centers. Detroit was alive with jazz clubs, blues venues, gospel churches, and rhythm and blues bands. For a young musician like Jamerson, it was the perfect environment. He quickly became known around the city as an exceptional upright bass player. Musicians noticed something unique about him. Even at a young age, Jamerson didn't simply play root notes. He played melodies. His bass lines moved like conversations, and that approach would soon revolutionize popular music forever. Before becoming a Motown legend, Jamerson spent years performing jazz in Detroit clubs. Those experiences became essential to his development. Jazz required improvisation. It required feel. It required harmonic understanding. And Jamerson absorbed everything. When electric bass guitars began replacing upright basses in popular music, many traditional jazz musicians resisted the change, but Jamerson embraced it. He eventually adopted a Fender precision bass and developed one of the most unusual techniques in bass history. Instead of using multiple fingers, Jamerson primarily played with one finger on his right hand. He called it the hook. To most bass players, using only one finger sounded limiting. For Jamerson, it became revolutionary. His timing, articulation, and attack created a groove unlike anything audiences had heard before. The bass no longer felt stiff or mechanical. It breathed, it danced, it sang. In 1959, Jamerson's life changed forever. Berry Gordy, founder of Motown Records, was building a new sound in Detroit. His vision was ambitious: create music that could cross racial barriers and appeal to mainstream America. To accomplish this, Gordy assembled an extraordinary group of musicians. That band eventually became known as the Funk Brothers. Jamerson became the heartbeat of that group, inside Motown's tiny Studio A. nicknamed the Snake Pit. The Funk Brothers recorded hit after hit after hit. The environment was intense. Musicians often recorded multiple songs in a single day. There was smoke in the air, instruments everywhere, constant pressure from producers. But magic happened in that room. And at the center of it was Jamerson. According to many musicians and historians, the Funk Brothers played on more #1 hits than Elvis Presley, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and the Beach Boys combined. Yet, for years, almost nobody knew their names. The Motown Sound changed American music. It combined gospel energy pop songwriting, jazz sophistication, rhythm, and blues groove. And Jamerson's bass sat directly in the middle of it all. Unlike many bassists of the era who played repetitive root notes, Jamerson approached bass like a jazz improviser. His lines constantly moved. He used chromatic passing tones, syncopation, melodic fills, ghost notes, rhythmic displacement. The result was extraordinary. Even when listeners didn't consciously notice the bass, they felt it. Songs like My Girl, Bernadette, For Once in My Life, I Was Made to Love Her became unforgettable, partly because of Jamerson's lines. Many modern bassists still study those recordings note by note, because Jamerson wasn't simply accompanying songs. He was composing inside them. Some bass lines have become legendary. Jamerson created dozens of them. On My Girl by The Temptations, his bass line flows underneath the vocals with incredible elegance. Simple, melodic, perfectly balanced. On Reach Out, I'll Be There by Four Tops, the bass creates urgency and emotional tension. On What's Going On by Marvin Gaye, Jamerson delivered what many bassists consider the greatest bass performance ever recorded. The line is complex, emotional, melodic, and deeply human. According to musicians involved with the session, Jamerson was reportedly so intoxicated that he recorded parts of the song lying on the studio floor, and yet the performance became immortal. That was Jamerson's genius. Even under difficult circumstances, the music remained extraordinary. Among bass players, Jamerson's influence is enormous. Paul McCartney has repeatedly cited Jamerson as one of his greatest influences. Jaco Pastorius admired him deeply. Modern bass legends like Marcus Miller, Victor Wooten, Pino Palladino all recognize Jamerson as foundational. What made him special wasn't simply technique, it was musicality. Jamerson understood space, dynamics, emotion. His lines supported songs while simultaneously transforming them. That balance is incredibly difficult, and very few musicians have ever achieved it the way Jamerson did. Despite his extraordinary talent, Jamerson's life was complicated. Motown's musicians worked constantly, but they rarely received public recognition. While singers became stars, the Funk Brothers remained anonymous. This frustrated many musicians, including Jamerson. At the same time, the music industry itself was changing. By the early 1970s, Motown relocated from Detroit to Los Angeles. That move disrupted the chemistry that had made the Motown sound so special. Jamerson struggled with the transition. Alcohol also became an increasing problem. Friends described him as brilliant and funny, but also deeply troubled. The pressures of fame without recognition took a toll. And as musical trends changed during the late 1970s, session work became harder to find. By the early 1980s, Jamerson's health had deteriorated significantly. Years of alcoholism affected both his personal life and career. Yet musicians still respected him enormously. Even in difficult circumstances, his reputation remained legendary. On August 2, 1983, James Jamerson died in Los Angeles at only 47 years old. Reports cited complications related to cirrhosis of the liver, heart failure, and pneumonia. The music world lost one of its greatest innovators, but many fans still didn't know his name. That would slowly begin to change in the years after his death. For decades, the Funk Brothers remained hidden figures in music history. Then came a major turning point. The book and later documentary, Standing in the Shadows of Motown, finally brought attention to Jamerson and the Funk Brothers. The film revealed the unbelievable truth behind the Motown recordings. Many viewers were shocked to discover that the musicians behind those classic songs had rarely been credited. The documentary introduced a new generation to Jamerson's brilliance, and musicians everywhere began rediscovering his work. Today, James Jamerson is widely recognized as one of the most important bass players ever. His innovations reshaped soul music, funk pop, R&B, jazz fusion, modern bass playing itself. In 2000, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The Funk Brothers later received a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. And every year, new musicians discover his recordings and experience the same reaction. How was this even possible? Because Jamerson's playing still sounds modern, still emotional, still alive. Some musicians become famous, others become immortal. James Jamerson did something even rarer. He changed the emotional foundation of popular music. He transformed the bass guitar from a background instrument into a voice capable of melody, storytelling, and soul. Even today, decades after his death, his grooves continue to move millions of people around the world. Because the true power of music is not always found in the spotlight. Sometimes, it lives deep in the pocket. And nobody understood that better than James Jamerson. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. See you in the next video.